All right, let's get going with our next group. They've been here before, and it is such an honor to have them. The Bronxville Paranormal Group is going to join us for the next 2 hours, and their team is going to join us. We're going to talk about all kinds of interesting stuff that's happening on the East Coast. Their website is Bronxville, BronxVille, paranormalsociety.com. You can go check out their webpage. They put a ton of great stuff together to talk about. They've done a lot of research. We're gonna have a fun 2 hours with this group. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and see if we can get them all on the line. I've got all the lines lit on hold. Let's hope they all work at the same time. Guys, good evening. Welcome to Fringe Radio and AM 630.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Can I think we're all here. None of us dropped off.
No, we're all here.
All right, sounds good. Well, Al and Bill and Brian, thank you so much for first of all coming on the program this weekend. I know we talked about having you guys back. We had to make a quick schedule change, and I want to thank you for taking the time. And of course, all of you supporting us. Al, how is the team doing? Why don't you give us a little rundown? Maybe all of you could go through a little bit of your bios and what you do, and tell us about the team and how Bronxville Paranormal got together.
Okay. For the people who don't know who we are, my name is Al Santoriga. I'm the founder and CEO of Bronxville Paranormal Society. We come out of Yonkers, New York, the Lower Hudson Valley. I'd just like to give a shout out to the members of the team who aren't with us tonight. If you don't mind, Pat, if that's okay.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, great. First and foremost, Frank Santoriga, my brother, who's our parapsychologist. Marilyn Aiello is the team intuitive. Cindy Ann Schuster is the team's editor and Reiki master. Paul Greco is our team special advisor and consultant. Cindy Bailey Dove is the team's psychic. Anthony C. is the team's lead investigator. Bob A., team's resident videographer. And Alan D. is the team's historian and researcher. Tonight, we have with us a dear friend of mine and an honorary member of the team, Bill Forte. Bill is our reserve videographer. Whenever we need one, Bill is always there. And last but not least, my right-hand man, Brian Bowden. He's our tech. He's executive director of technology and paranormal research. Brian is the man. And that's everybody.
It sounds like, Brian, you hold it all together for Al.
I'm trying to be the glue.
Well, I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. I went and took a look at your website. Very well put together. You guys, you're a very, very busy group.
We try to stay busy. Unfortunately, we've been down and out for the last few months because I had a total knee replacement on my right knee, and so we haven't been able to get out and do any further investigations since last October. Kind of took the winter off. It was, it's rough out here to go out in the winter in the Northeast, but we plan on getting back to it very soon.
Well, did the knee replacement help? Everybody I've talked to that have gone through it, they fear doing it, but once it's done, they wish they'd have done it a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've had two of them done now. I had the left and the right, and the left was a nightmare, but I survived, and the right was a piece of cake. Really beautiful thing.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad that you're going. How did you, if you guys don't mind, how did the group start? Al, were you how did you get involved? I mean, what pushed you into putting this team together?
Honestly, it was my brother Frank. My brother said, I was going out with a few friends of mine. We were really into the paranormal and curious about stuff. We were going out and doing investigations, and we would always find amazing stuff. But they weren't really taking it serious, and I wanted to take the investigations to the next level. And Paul is our advisor and consultant. Paul has his own group called UFO Roundtable in Yonkers, New York, and we I kind of put my team together through Paul's group. Everybody on my team is a member of Paul's group, and my brother said, you got some great members in that group. You should take advantage of them. So I did, and I put a team together. I picked who I thought could really bring a lot of stuff to the table, and so the rest is history.
Interesting. And then Bill, of course, I know your backstory. You have your Skywatch group that you put together, and your interest in ufology, and you got to fit in real good with these guys.
I got to tell you, it was an absolute pleasure and honor to be a part of this group. And fortunately, Al actually took me to Nuclear Lake, which he's going to get into more depth and detail on in a few minutes. But that was the first time I ever went to a site that had supposed paranormal activity. And I have to tell you, Pat, when you hear about stuff, but when you go there and you're surrounded by the professionals that these gentlemen are and the team members, and you pick up on some of the things that they do, and you see how things gravitate. It's incredible, because it also seems that things gravitate to them. It's like they attract, especially Al. Al has some kind of a gift or sense. I don't know what to say about it, but there's something with Al that things just seem to be attracted when he's around. But it's really an honor to be a part with these guys. And like you mentioned, I'm just an honorary member, and if they need me for any backups, if they need a videographer at any given time, I'm there for them. And so that we met a couple of years ago, and we've gone on a couple of these investigations, and I'm really looking forward to going to back to Nuclear Lake and some of these other activities that these guys are involved with.
Well, what I find interesting is that what I do like about your group, guys, is that you do a little bit of everything, and we'll touch on that tonight. But you're not just a paranormal, you're not just a paranormal research group. You're not a cryptozoology group. You bring the whole thing together, because, as I've said so many times, I think at the end of the day, it's all somewhat tied together anyway. And to bring all of your talents together and put this type of research together. And I want to thank Brian for putting the notes together for me tonight. Our group tonight that's on the line with us is the Bronxville Paranormal Society. Brian, Bill, and Al, again, thank you for staying up late and sharing your stuff with us. It's an honor to have you guys on the program, as always.
It's an honor for us to be back. Thank you, Pat.
Brian, why don't you talk a little bit? We talked to Al and Bill. How did you get involved with the group, and what drove you into this?
I think the last time we talked, it was I'm very big on sci-fi movies, monsters, Lon Chaney.
Oh, I love that. I love monsters. I love B movies.
Right, in the stars and planets, and I was always into science and science fiction, and I've had some experiences not knowing what they are, because as a kid you just make you think it's something more than it is. But I got involved and met Al and Bill. Basically, it's through the UFO Roundtable. It was someone dared me to go, and I actually went, and by chance. It happens to be one of the better groups out there that does that type of UFO discussion and freeform discussion. Paul has amazing guests that come there, very intimate setting. And then I met Al, and he asked me, and I thought it was a really great opportunity to take some of my scientific background, my analytical background, and my interest in combining it into actually, not watching it sitting on my couch, going out there and investigating. So that's how I met these gentlemen and some of the ladies that are with us right now.
Well, and as I've always said, one thing I've found about paranormal researchers is none of them really consider this, and I can tell by your dedication, nobody really considers this any sort of a hobby. I mean, it is a science. And with the technology that's out there, there's more and more technology that's coming out to help prove things. And people that I've met that are involved with this, they're looking for an understanding, looking for their own answers, of course, But the big thing is, especially with the paranormal investigations, is they're helping individuals. They're helping people find out, why things possibly may be going, what's going on inside of somebody's house. And again, it's not a hobby. It's really, there's a true, people have a true calling to it, and put a lot of time and effort into it to help others out.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So let's
That's one of our big goals.
Go ahead.
Helping people as much as we can. I mean, when people come to us, Al usually on point with getting new people to come and meet with them, because we're always discussing it. It's a very rough topic to just open up. Hey, you believe in UFOs? You have a ghost? Because people then they'll look at you a little bit off, color. But and once it comes out, people just start slowly creeping up, and oh, Al, I had this experience, or Brian, well, there was this one time. So if we can help somebody out, especially children, and make their lives better, it's a win-win.
Oh, without a doubt.
And Pat,
Sure.
I just got to mention also, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of different type of research groups like ufologists, or those that are involved, let's say, with paranormal, with ghosts or Bigfoot, and they tend to try to separate themselves from each other. The great thing about this group is that you've got elements of everyone's background that brings something to the table, that brings everything together, like you mentioned at the opening, that you believe that all of this is connected. And I have to tell you, me and with my sky watching and doing the things I do with ufology, but then to be a part of this, and when I went with these guys, and Pat, I have to tell you, the experience again, I'm open-minded, so that's a good thing. You have to be open-minded when you're approaching this, because a person that is open-minded to one thing, to me, should be open-minded to all possibilities. Some people are dead set against when you're a ufologist, you don't want to really get involved with the paranormal aspect, like with ghosts and spirits or Bigfoot. When I went with these guys, and that night that we experienced all these things, I have to tell you, firsthand, it was absolutely amazing. All these different emotions are running through your body, and it develops, there's so much emotion, like excitement, nervousness, apprehensiveness. There's just so much, and the passion that you develop being a part of this. Now, not only am I interested in ufology, but these guys really got me interested in the other aspects as well. So kudos to them and to all the work that they do. And again, I am just so excited to be even a part of this with these guys.
Well, we're going back to Nuclear Lake, Bill. We're going back.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Well, and Bill has definitely with his Skywatch group, that has really blossomed up. The amount of people that are, I know him and Eric when we had them both on the program, and some of the other guys. I mean, that is this past year I actually had a UFO sighting myself. And anyone who's been listening to the show, we had Eric Lukes on last week. Our little American Airlines, our Flight 434 thing has really blossomed. It actually blossomed into the ham radio community now. I found the article that Bill Puckett put together. It actually popped up on some ham radio forums, which I was really happy to see. But it's amazing again when you pull everybody together and pull all their talents together and all their the experiences. There's a lot of stuff going on out there.
And Pat, it's funny you mentioned Erica, because we spent we'll get to it eventually when we start talking about the investigation. But we caught something that night on the investigation that we sent to Erica to validate for us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, let's talk about some of the investigations. Let's talk a little bit about Nuclear Lake. If one of you want to take the lead on it and kind of set the settings, tell our listeners here in Utah what Nuclear Lake is. Why don't you go ahead and kick off, and let's talk about this investigation, because it's prominent on your webpage.
Yeah, well, I was shown Nuclear Lake by a friend. Really, really nice lake. The Appalachian Trail runs through it, and went hiking there many times with my child and my children and my dog. I had a nice German Shepherd. But I didn't know any of the high strangeness it had going on there until a neighbor told me one time that a couple of coon hunters on the Appalachian Trail came across Sasquatch. So I said, really? And he said, yes. So he starts telling me this story. So I put a team together, and I said, okay. A bunch of friends who were into the paranormal. We went there and we looked at it. We did a day investigation, and we found some strange things like a 150-pound buck wrapped around a tree branch that was about 60 feet up in the air. It was strange. We found trees that were bent, twisted. We found these little stone figurines in the woods. So we decided, since the day went so good, we would go back at night. So we went back at night. We hiked in off of the Appalachian Trail, and there's a part of the trail that it gets very splotchy. And I kind of had a feeling if anything was going to happen, it was going to happen on this part of the trail. And when we got to this one little section of trail, it was more like a goat trail than anything else. We had we had a holler to the south of us and a higher ridge line to the north of us, and all of a sudden we started smelling some really bad smells. So everybody started, like, you smell this? Yes, we smell that. Then we started noticing around us that the trees were broken, twisted, and had a couple of people come up to me at some point and say, I feel like we're being watched. Look, I said, I felt like we were being watched as well. And I said, well, where do you guys think it's coming from? And everybody said the ridge line. So we looked up on the ridge line. I had night vision goggles. Didn't see anything. We hit it with a high-powered flashlight, looking for eye shine. We didn't find anything. At one point, we crossed over a swamp, and we were all taking a water break, and the coyotes went crazy. And it was like they were being hunted. They were running for their lives. I mean, I had a coyote run across my feet. It was the size of a German Shepherd.
Wow.
And at that point, my friends who were home from the city had said, we're done, because the night we happened to be in the woods, there was like 1% of them, so it was dark. So we called it a night, and we headed out. And I told Bill these stories. And Bill's like, oh, you got to show me this place. You got to show me this place. So I said, okay, when the weather breaks, we'll go there. Went up there in early October. We headed up there, brought him up there, just to show him the lake. Now, the lake itself is, the lake is 55 acres. The park itself is 1,100 acres. Then you have another, like, 1,500 acres of woods around that. And originally, they used to mine uranium there in 1955. There was a uranium mine. There was an accident. They were refining it. It blew up when all the uranium, plutonium went into the lake, and that's how the lake got its name. So started hearing all these crazy stories about light anomalies in the woods, UFOs over the lake site, water, light anomalies going in and out of this lake. A lot of sightings on the BFRO regarding to Bigfoot campers off the Appalachian Trail and at the lake, seen them. So, Bill got all revved up. Said, come on, take me to this lake. I said, okay. So we hiked. As we're hiking in, Bill felt like we were being watched. And it's like a mile hike from the parking lot to the lake itself. We get up to the lake. There's a huge rock to sit down on. We're taking a break. And Bill's filming for his YouTube page. No sooner do we get there, Pat. I mean, we just sat down. We hear a tree knock come from the east. So Bill says, what do you think that was? And I said, it was a tree knock. And I said, so I break out one of my meters, and I got a radar, ghost radar, and the ghost radar is telling me there's something to the east of us and something to the west of us behind us. So I tell Bill, just jokingly, I said, wouldn't it be funny if the Sasquatch in front of us, number one, behind us, not to come out because there's people in between us. No sooner than that, and you can hear the tree knock on Bill's video. He was filming at the time. No sooner than I say that, we get a rock thrown at us from behind us, from the west of us.
Wow.
So Bill says, well, what do you think that means? And I said, I think that means we should move on. So we head on out, and we're hiking the trail, and I bring him to this one campsite where everybody seems to run across Sasquatches. And the lake was really low at the time. We hadn't had a lot of rain here in New York. And we find what looks like a left footprint in the mud. So he's going, is it? I don't know. We're debating back and forth, and we can't believe what we're finding. So he said, Al, show me where the Appalachian Trail comes in. Okay, so it's just west of where this little campsite is, and we hike in there. And again, we didn't go in maybe more than 25 feet, and we start noticing the tree branches not only broken but twisted. We find it looks like a makeshift shelter. Now, it's not a hunting blind pack. It's just some federal land. You can't hunt on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the shelter is so shabbily made that even if you tried to use it for protection from the weather, it couldn't protect you. It looked like a child made it.
Right.
So we're pretty blown away by the stuff we're finding. I'm just taking Bill out there for a hike to the lake. We move on a little further north, and we find this huge structure. I mean, this thing has trees that are 20, 30 feet long, 6, 8 inches thick, put in between other trees like forks, and then twisted around each other. I mean, how do you twist an 8-inch tree is beyond me.
Right.
And Bill's filming it, and we're really excited about what we're finding. And again, we move on deeper into the woods. We're at the north end, and we find these little stone figurines, but they're not like where you can get to them. They're on the edge of a cliff, 30 feet up in the air. You have to be like a billy goat to get up there. And then who's going to carry rocks up there to build the figurine? So we're freaking out, and we move on. We're coming around the east end of the lake. We find these 3 huge crystal stones in the shape of a pyramid. Now, I happen to touch one of the stones, and I knocked it over. And Bill jokingly said, now you can have like 10 years bad luck. But we built it. We rebuilt it. But the strange thing about it is that all the stones in the lake at this area are either limestone or granite. So where did these 3 crystal stones come from? I have no idea. So then Bill says, oh, man, Al, we have to go back. We have to go back. And I was like, yeah, we'll go back. We had a good day. We never really expected to find anything. And he says, we got to go back for Halloween. So, originally I had scheduled to go to the Ancient Stone Chambers on Halloween and do an investigation there. But Bill was so adamant about going back to the lake on Halloween. So I start researching, weather, and I find out there's going to be a meteor shower, there's a full moon, it's Hallows Eve, and the place is a place of high strangeness. And every time I talk about it with my psychic, her energy goes off the charts. She says, this place has got everything under the sun going on in this place. It's unbelievable. Wow. So we schedule the Halloween investigation. Okay? The rest of my team, everybody's married and has kids. A lot of guys can't make it. Brian says he'll come. Bill says he's in. So we head out that night. Bill, you want to tell them about the walk-in?
Well, before we get to the walk-in, I just want to touch on a few points before he goes to the break. Is when he took me that first time, Pat, initially, before we even walked in, he had this app, and the app says Bing. So right there from the inception, starting this thing, already I'm getting a vibe. Before we even get to the path that takes us to the old mining road that takes us to the lake, already I'm getting a vibe off this place. Then where the footprint was around the perimeter of the lake that we found, that was where they had a sighting, a reported sighting of a Bigfoot. So, and on the trail, like he mentioned about the trees. Now, I'm looking for evidence. These tree branches are twisted. There's tree branches that he's identifying. He's got a great eye for that. I'd say about 7, 8 feet in the air, and they're twisted. Like he said, I'm looking to see if there's any trees that could have fallen on these trees to create that. I found no evidence of that. It was just incredible. Another thing is, the place seems devoid of life. No insects, no animals, no birds, nothing. And there's an abundant supply of food. Acorns were everywhere. I mean, there's no reason this place should be dead quiet as it was. And I found that very eerie. So, again, very strange atmosphere from the get-go. And that's why when Al said, let's go, we have to go back. Brian was there, Al and myself, and we just had to go back on Halloween. What a perfect environment and conditions where everything, all the elements were coming together, which really lay the foundation to one incredible night.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Fringe Radio. The guys from Bronxville Paranormal Society are here again, guys. Thank you all for giving up time on your Saturday night to be here with us.
Thank you for having us, Pat.
Bill, do you want to pick back up, or do you we're right before the break?
No, I think Al could pick up now when we went the second time with Brian himself and myself when we went the second time. So, Al, if you want to pick up from there.
Well, all right. So you got to understand, Pat, this place has got an energy about it, okay? I mean, there's been reports just south of it at a different location. There's another lake called Willie Lake. I know a guy who was abducted by UFOs while fishing on the lake one night at 12 o'clock at night. He's seen a spotlight. He thought it was a helicopter. Next thing he wakes up on the beach in the morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. I know people work for the state as far as roads department. They find cars abandoned on the side. They pick people up who are just wandering aimlessly down the street. They don't know what happened to them. They don't know where they are. They have to call the state police. This place is very, very strange. And like I said, anytime we talk about this place, or we even start discussing going there, our psychic starts getting energy coming to her. And she's from out of state. She does everything with us over the phone, and she starts getting these energies and starts seeing things. She'll call me and she'll say, Al, where the hell are you guys going now? Or what the hell are you guys up to? I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing that, and I'm feeling this, and I'm feeling that. And I just laugh, and I say, well, we were planning on going here, or we plan on going there. But this place, they have these stone walls. Bill, tell them about the stone walls that go in every direction.
Yeah, they do. I was asking Al because I thought maybe this was something to do with maybe in the colonial era where they put these walls for maybe some borders to property lines, or maybe it's something to do with the Native Americans. I was trying to figure out why all these walls and going in all these directions. And I don't know if you've ever had Dennis Stone of this American Stonehenge, but he mentions also, he's done research on this and some others, about all these structures, these stone structures and walls that are found all up in the northeast area. So it was just odd to see all these stone walls. And they, like I said, it could be one wall or three walls parallel going out different directions. And it's just a really odd, just spectacle to see all this, these walls going in all these different directions. So yeah, that was pretty odd and interesting, really interesting stuff.
Interesting.
Brian, speak about on the walk-in, what you felt and what you saw.
Well, since I was the newbie to the trip, we walked in about a mile. We were walking in about a mile in just before you get to the lake. There's some wildlife. It's a typical wood path, a little bit wider for I guess a truck to get up for the ranger. And as we're walking, I just kind of like you can see out of the side of your eye that looks like someone's kind of like paralleling us in the woods about 40, 50 yards out. And I got a little frustrated. I said, okay, what is this? And when I turned, I saw what looked like something brown and a leg just go right behind a tree, and then it just disappeared. It didn't come back out behind the tree. So I was noticing this for a while, and I made a note to Bill and Al. I said, yeah, I keep seeing something, out of the corner of my eye. Looks like we have somebody or something paralleling us. As we kept getting further and further in the trip, just before we hit the stones that they found that were piled up, about the halfway mark to where we were going to make our first camp, it changed from being a brownish leg to it looked like a white tunic, as if you caught it just going behind a corner. It went behind the tree, and it disappeared. So from the get-go, I'm just sensing we are totally being watched. We're being followed. We're being tailed. I don't know why. It just had that feeling and presence about it. So that's what I was noticing big time.
Well, it sounds like the place could almost be like a sanctuary for for strange stuff.
Definitely.
Well,
totally agree with that statement.
Yeah, our psychic, she mentioned that this was just a powerful place. It's a spiritual place, and it's not just a Native American spiritual. She started going into things that, you know, you don't normally would normally hear, because the way she said it was like she didn't want to say it, but this is the feeling she gets when she's getting this. It's kind of like that kind of fantasy stuff, like guardians, higher spirits, native chief medicine men, elves. I hate saying this, but elves, fairies, or that mystical type of folklore. And she said everything is just, this is where these people or these things are. And it kind of gave that feel that there's a lot to this place. It's not your typical walk in the woods. I don't know if anybody, if you've taken hikes here and there, you can take the hike. I'm very versed and familiar with woods, but this place has a totally different vibe, 100%. And you just feel it right out of the gate.
Wow.
There's something going on there.
Again, like it's meant to be, like it formed to house these creatures, maybe.
It very well could be. It's interesting. I mean, I'm sure that there's tons of places and there's tons of feelings. I haven't been to some of the other, I guess, sacred places in sacred land. But you get a certain feeling when you walk into certain type of spiritual places, be it a church, a temple, wherever it is. You kind of get the feeling like, yeah, this has a purpose, like a real purpose, not like what they preach right now. You know, a lot of people are trying to preach right now. So it was a very interesting start to the day for us, and it just getting better and better. Al?
Let me ask you, Nuclear Lake. What's the history behind Nuclear Lake, if you don't mind? How you said they mined uraniums there? Was there ever an accident there, or anything that ever happened there?
Well, if you don't mind, basically what happened was there's a company called United Nuclear Corporation that had an agreement with the federal government and the military. They were allowed to use weapons-grade uranium. And the project they were working on pretty much was something with transportation. I don't know whether it was an engine. No one really got specifics. You couldn't really find anything. And in the course of them doing their business there, they had a fire on the property, which leaked a tremendous amount of radioactive material into the lake and into the area. And in about the 70s, they finally finished cleaning it up, I believe. And I'm putting quotes around cleaning it up because no one really knows. They sealed off a couple other little ponds that were fed by this lake. But that's basically what happened there. And then they kind of like made it into a park or federal land. There was a tremendous amount of reports in the area from other streams of cancer clusters. I don't think it was cleaned up as they said. So that just probably adds a lot to it. So that's basically the history of it.
Pat, we did a little research, and we found out that according to our psychic and another psychic that I know from England, they both kind of read the place, and they both said the same exact thing. They felt that it was sacred Native American land. Now, I don't know if it was sacred to the natives because of the uranium in the mountains there,
right?
Or if it was just, the energy of the place itself. But I know that they did seal off that uranium mine, so no one could get it. And I do know the government spent $90 billion or something like that cleaning it up. Something to that effect. It was a lot of money that they spent trying to clean. But the lake, the park is not listed as, you would think there's no signs for it. It's considered a federal park, but there's no signs for it. There's really no parking lot. It's hidden from the main road. If you didn't know it was there, you would go right by it every day and never see it. It's very strange the way the government set up this park.
So it's not a tourist attraction per se. It's a body of water. It's not a like you said. It's kind of you got to know where it's at to find it.
Yeah, there's no benches or bathrooms or water fountains, anything like that, like you would think at a state park or federal park. Nothing along those lines. And safety. The only reason why they did it is because the Appalachian Trail runs right through it, so they consider it a federal park. But other than that, you know, you really can't be there after dark, but you can be on the Appalachian Trail 24/7, 365 days a year. So that's how we kind of worked our way into the park. We went in during daylight hours, and we stayed. You know, we were in that park for 8 hours that night. It got crazy. It got crazy.
You know, let me ask you, with the crystal quartz and the little I'm looking at some of the photos, the little figurines. Do you believe that maybe one of these cryptos could be setting these things up, or do you think there's maybe it's sacred ground of some sort, or where do you think those come from?
I think, personally, I think we have to do a little research on the Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest. I found out that they do make these stone figurines. Now, I didn't know what the hell they were called when I first seen it. They
right.
Kind of be honest with you, scared the hell out of me, because the first thing I thought of was the devil worshippers,
sure.
Blair Witch, something like that came to mind. But you got to understand, we're in the woods, deep woods. You know what I mean? This is not a real like little nature preserve or park. These are deep woods. There's mountain lions. There's black bear. There's packs of coyotes. I mean, you know, this is not your average run-of-the-mill park. You know, and we went in there. So we went in there that night. So eventually, we escaped. Figured out we were going to pick 3 spots, and we started at the furthest location. We would work our way back towards the car. So we started at the crystal stones, the 3 crystal stones. And when we got there, I had pulled out, again, like the guy said, void of life. The only things in the park were a couple of ducks. Everything else there was, and you'd hear some like a kennel of dogs howling on one side of the lake, and coyotes on the other. But I mean miles away, not close to us. Otherwise, there was no other animals, no birds, no squirrels, no nothing, which was strange to begin with. And so we sit down. We say, okay, this is location number 1, and we set up camp. I break out my parabolic mic, and I'm listening, and I start getting Morse code kind of sound coming at me. And I'm like, wow, guys, got to listen to this. It's like a Morse code. So I let Brian listen to it. I let Bill listen to it. And as I started pointing the microphone straight up to the sky, the code got louder and louder and louder and stronger. So we recorded that sound, and we discussed what we thought it was. Brian, you wanted to talk about that?
Sure. Everybody was trying to figure it out, and I think a little more out of the box than some of the other guys do. And I'm thinking that if this accident happened about 30 plus years ago, this tree that we're getting these sounds off of, the highest point of that tree would be roughly about 7 to 8 feet. So that would have gotten the brunt of the radioactive blast or whatever the problem was. And of course, as it grows, it's going to stay there with the tree. So I'm thinking it's probably effects of radiation. However, when you hear like a Morse code and you know it's a military background, your brain starts wondering, is it, maybe it's one of the microwave towers in the area that they used. I mean, they were using nuclear material. And then you start thinking, is it a craft? So I propose those ideas, but, we still to this day don't really know what it was, but it's pretty interesting hearing it,
Also,
nowhere.
As these guys, he's playing with the parabolic mic. Al is pointing it all over the place. I'm recording with my camera, and there's a point where you can actually hear a tree knock in the distance. As they're doing this, as we're having the discussion, and I'm recording it on the camera, it picks it up. You can hear a tree knock. And as far as, again, devoid of life, and that area for decades had a high rate of cancer in the immediate area. So there could be a correlation between what happened with the accident and the cancer. That's the high, the alarming rate of cancer patients, the people that have suffered from cancer in the area. So I don't know if it's all connected, Pat, but it does seem that it's either a coincidence or there is some truth to that as well.
Well, yeah, like maybe some of the again, maybe some of the radiation. I don't want to use the word enhanced, but maybe changed a few things over there.
Well, the fish, we know that. These guys could tell you that they call them. I forgot the name. What they call those fish that the bass that in there.
Alligator
bass.
Alligator bass.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. And I mean, it actually comes up, and if a bird lands on the surface, it will devour the prey.
Really?
The animals. Oh yes, you can find remnants and the remains of small animals, carcasses along the sides of the lake. I mean, we're talking. There's definitely some mutated genetic alterations going on at this lake. So it's, again, this is just the tip of the iceberg, as you're going to hear in the next hour. This is really going to it's going to go, because there's a lot more activity that's about to happen.
Before we get back to the group next week again, our good friend Betsy Lewis is going to be with us, and then we are going to have Catherine Shijan, and Mark Anderson are going to join us, and they're going to be talking about Shakespeare, everything Shakespeare. So that's going to be an interesting show next Saturday night. A lot of fun. All right, let's get back to the current group. We've got Al and Bill and Brian from the Bronxville Paranormal Society. Again, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your weekend to be here with us.
Thank you for having us, Pat.
So, do we want to go back to Nuclear Lake, Al? We've got more to cover.
Oh my God, we got so much. We're gonna have to jam it in.
Go ahead, brother.
We're gonna have to start rocking it out now.
Go ahead.
So we settle in, and we're I like to go old school, new school. I got compasses and dowsing rods, crystal skulls, Tibetan singing bowls. I have digital thermometers and thermal imagers and digital cameras and night vision cameras, and so we got a little bit of everything. I like to do a little bit of everything. So I get my compass, I go over to these stones and see if there's any energy coming off. The compass doesn't move. I go over with my dowsing rods. Dowsing rods don't move. I hit it with the thermal imager. It's ice cold. You can't even see it on a thermal imager. So at this point, so nothing's really happening. It's starting to get dark now, and like Bill says, we're hearing tree knocks here and there. Hit that. So we take a photograph of it. Brian's got a clear crystal skull. I got a rose quartz. One is supposed to be a transmitter. One is supposed to be a receiver. So we take out the rose quartz, put them with the crystal skull on the crystal stone, and I break out the Tibetan singing bowl. Now the woods are pitch black. It's dead quiet, and I start hitting this bowl, and I'm filling this woods up with frequency and vibration, and it's just amping up the energy in the wood. I mean, the whole atmosphere changed at this point. I pick up the thermal imager, and the stones are white hot on their imagers, but they're cold to the touch. The compass is spinning like a top. The dowsing rods are crossing. I can't even get close to put a dowsing rods across. I pick up the parabolic, and I hear something walking towards us in the swamp, far away, really far away, but something big is coming. So I think it's a person. I let Brian and Bill listen to it, and they're like, "Al, you're out of your mind. It's not a person. It's way too big. It's way too heavy." So at this point, we call our psychic. We put the phone on the crystal stone, and she can't talk. It's like she got Bell's palsy. We have to move the stone away. We move the phone away. We move the phone away from the stones, and now she's able to talk. And she's like, "Oh my God, the energy in this place." She starts talking about Bigfoot going to be watching us and all this crazy stuff. We're going to see light anomalies, and we're going to see elves, and we're going to see fairies, and we're going to see this place is a vortex, and things come in and out of it, and it's crazy, crazy energy. So everybody's listening, and for some reason now, could have been the energy in the woods. I'm very insistent that it's a person coming, and I don't want to give away our location because you can't have any fires in the woods, so we got a couple of glow sticks on the ground. So anyway, we're sitting there, and we're waiting for this person to walk by, and it gets right below us, the swamp. I mean, maybe 50 feet away, and it hits two rocks together. We got a tree, we got a knock rock, bada boom. So everybody's like, holy crap, did you just hear that? So we're listening. Now we get a tree knock from the other side of the lake. A tree knock on the other side of the lake. So we're all just like freaking out because we can't believe what's going on. And then all of a sudden, we get three incredible whoops. So loud. I mean, I can't emphasize how loud these whoops were. And we were 50 feet away from this creature that was in the swamp, and the ground was vibrating below our feet.
Wow.
Yep. At this point, we have a stone wall behind us. We're using one of those stone walls as a wall behind us. We all jump over the wall to see what the hell is in the swamp. Because we jump over the wall. Bill's got this like 5,000 lumen flashlight that lights the woods up like it's daytime. And we jump over the wall. We don't see anything. Now with the flashlight, there's nothing down there with a headlamp. There's nothing down there with a flashlight. We can't see with our flashlight. We can't see it on the night vision cameras. We can't see it on the thermal imager. But we just heard three incredible whoops. Bill, you want to take this?
Yeah, actually, Pat.
I'm just going to play you one thing. I just want to let you know what they sounded like. So if it's all right with you.
Sure.
So I'm going to... I don't know if you guys heard that, but I was trying to play it a little bit louder than I did, and I don't think it came out. But those were the whoops. I'll try to get you the sound, and we'll throw it up on your the message board there so that people can listen to it as well. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Bill.
That's okay. And it's funny because when we first heard this, there was a bunch of dogs in the far, very in the distance. They were barking, and they were going. I mean, it was numerous amounts of dogs. I don't know if there was a kennel or if there was a few homes, maybe a half a mile or whatever it was away. And they were barking madly, Pat. And when these whoops were going on, they stopped cold. And my hair stood up because I've never heard a sound like this in my life. And, we know the type of animals that are in our area. Now, and as we'll explain later on, going and doing the analysis of this afterwards, the following days that were to come, to try to determine what exactly we heard, just put some kind of grounding to what, try to come to a logical explanation of what we experienced with the sound. And like just what Brian just played is the only thing that we could match to what we heard that night. And it was just incredible. Now, I should have instinctively went to grab my camera, which I didn't, to get audio, which I wish I would have, to get that audio sound, even though I couldn't see anything with the night vision camera or the Sony camcorder, but at least to pick up that audio. Pat, it was the most amazing thing. And like I said, I'm skeptical to a point because you have to be grounded.
Right.
But when you experience something like that in person and you hear that firsthand, I mean, it is like again what I mentioned earlier. So many different emotions are running through you because it's excitement, it's nervousness, you're apprehensive, you don't know if it's coming at you, you don't know what it is. It's just all these different things are rushing through your body, and you're trying to make sense. Now that was just weird because I'm sitting in my room and something just fell in my room, and I have no idea what. Yeah, that's another thing. We're going to get into that too. There's things that go on in my house where these guys are going to investigate my house too. But something just happened in my room. I can't even tell you. That's how odd it is. But Pat, again, very odd, these sounds, and like he said, it moved from one location to another location, and then another location, and if these were far distances in between. How was this thing moving from this point to that point to this point, and you don't hear in between? And like Al mentioned, this is a swamp. You should be, and this is the fall. You should hear. There's a lot of foliage on the ground. There's a lot of leaves down. You should be able to hear the crunching sound. Anything, nothing, Pat. You could not tell where this thing, how it was moving in the woods. It was just incredibly odd, and it was, like I said, it was awesome at the same time because it's exciting. You're actually experiencing something that you always dream of, maybe possibly having that. So it was great.
Then you about jump out of your skin. We got to take a quick break, and we're going to cue that up. I've got that on the studio computer. We'll play that again on the air. All right, everybody, welcome back to Fringe Radio. We've got the group from the Bronxville Paranormal Society on the phone. If it's okay, guys, I brought that over to the station computer. That whoop. We want to hear that again.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. Pretty interesting listening to this. That. I kind of would be running for my life if I heard that in the middle of the night.
Well, let me tell you, Pat, when I tell you what came next, you probably would have ran for your life. Because after that happened, we were all sitting down. We hunkered down, and we're sitting there just seeing what else is going to happen next. And Brian has a boulder thrown at him. I mean,
yes,
the huge stone goes flying over Brian's head. And Brian, tell him what happened.
Well, I don't think whatever it was too happy that we were still there. Basically, after this happened, we're trying to figure this out. We're looking, there's a heavy footsteps as if like an elephant was walking there, but it's moving quick. Boulder goes over my head, and I think I came to the conclusion that this was a scout, and it was telling whatever other creatures were in the woods, maybe wanted to go to where we were, to stay there. There's 3 of them, hence the 3 whoops. And it just got really pissed off that, we weren't leaving. We weren't scared off by whatever this was at this point. So then it started ramping up, Al.
So then we're all settled down, and we're just hanging in there, waiting to see what's going to come next. When we hear something running up the ridgeline, you can hear all the leaves and the foliage cracking underneath his feet. Sounds like, to me, personally, like a mountain lion coming up the ridge. This thing is coming, Pat. It's charging. And you can hear it coming. Now, we didn't go into the woods unarmed. We're all carrying 18-inch machetes and 10-inch survival knives, 2 cans of pepper spray each. Want to be protected. So this thing is coming, and now Bill has got his back to this wall. And this thing is coming up over the wall. So at one point, Bill jumps out of his chair, and he starts to run. And I told him, I grab him, and I spin around. I tell him, don't run. Face what's coming. Because I'm thinking, personally, I'll be honest with you, I'm thinking there's a mountain lion about to jump off this wall, and it's going to jump on the first person that it can see that has its back to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we're waiting there, and we hear it charging up the hill, and it's charging up the hill, and we all have our knives drawn, and we're waiting for this thing to come over the hill. And whatever it was comes right up to that stone wall and disappears. Doesn't go back down. Doesn't go back down the hill. Just disappears. It's not there anymore. Like it ran, and the only thing I can relate it to is what they call a bluff charge that bears do to chase other animals away from their cubs or they're killed. They'll charge you, and then when you turn and run, they'll stop. But this thing kept coming, but we didn't run, and it stopped, and it disappeared. Like, I'm not a big fan of different dimensions and stuff like that.
Right,
but
right.
But that night, whatever that creature was that was in the woods that was watching us, he was going from one point, from point A to point B to point C. And there's 2, 3, 4 miles in between these points in a blink of an eye. And I don't care how big the creature is, how well it knows the woods. There's no way any animal is running 2 miles in, 30 seconds. Yeah,
What time of is it dark out at this point in time?
Yeah, it's pitch black. I mean, you can't see in front of your face. You really can't. There's even though it was a great bright night, you couldn't see. It was that dark. To the seriously, you can put your hand up, not seeing a thing.
And also, Pat, we had glow sticks on the ground in front of us. We're all sitting parallel to each other in chairs, and we're all being dead quiet. We're looking through our gear, night vision equipment, all the different types of equipment that we have. We're just sitting there, in absolute silence, just being observant, using our senses. And you pick up, you know, when you're doing that, all your senses are raised. You know, you have that awareness around you.
Yeah.
And when when something like that comes out of nowhere, you pick it up, you hear all the fine details, and it's just on you in a second. And like Al said, I backed up, I jumped up. I was like, startled because this thing was coming from behind me. And as soon as I turned, when he spun me to face it, it stopped. And now I got my big flashlight again. I'm looking because this thing sounded like it was maybe 6 feet away. So I should be able to see what the heck this thing just was. And nothing, Pat, and no sound of retreating, nothing, which had me baffled because I couldn't figure out, okay, this thing just came up the freaking hill. Now, where did it go?
Yeah.
You know, it was just very odd. Again, strange.
And the energy in there, I mean, you felt the pressure. There was like a pressure there, like when a storm's coming, and it built and it built and it built. And then after that one moment where it tried to do that bluff charge or whatever it was, and we didn't back down, it cut immediately. Immediately. It felt, for me, it felt a world of difference. And it wasn't fear that's building up in you. I mean, I've been in the woods before when it's dark. I'm not really, like nervous about that. My only option when this thing was running is like, I'm not going into this nuclear water. And if it's a bear, it climbs better than I do.
Yeah.
So it's you got to stay and fight. And I think actually by Al grabbing Bill and us kind of forming like a triangle there of like, no, we're standing our ground. It really got frustrated. And at that point, it left there, and the intensity just kind of died down almost immediately for that.
And being by that nuclear water, it's like you don't know if you got Bigfoot chasing you, aliens, bears, or is Godzilla going to pop out of the lake?
Exactly.
Hey, Pat,
for
now, let me
Mothra to
tell
come
you,
out.
well, we were sitting there, at one point, like Brian said, it's just everything settled down. We were sitting there and just observing the woods. We heard stuff creeping up on us. You could hear things creeping up on, like something was coming. But whatever was creeping up on us, and it was all around us, it wasn't in just one direction. Whatever it wasn't in any of the spectrums of light that we had with us that night. It wasn't in night vision. It wasn't in the thermal vision. We couldn't see it with our own eyes. So I don't know what spectrum of light these creatures or whatever it was in, but we couldn't see. So after a while, everything settles down, and we pack up our gear, and we're moving to location number 2. And as we're moving along to location number 2, everybody's got all their gear packed, and we're moving. We see this bright light in the sky. It looks like a strobe light. It's going from west to east, crossing over the lake. And we get to the most northern part of the lake, and everybody looks up and says, what the hell is that? No sooner do we say, what the hell is that, the thing stops. And it takes a beeline right for us.
Right at us.
Okay.
A light now.
Yeah, now it's a light.
Yeah,
and when it was far away, it was like whitish, okay, whitish blue. As it's getting closer, it's turning colors. It's orange and it's red. It's coming right towards us. And so as it's coming towards us, Brian was streaming the investigation live that night. So he had his camera out. He was filming. We actually filmed it. I turned to Bill and I tell everybody, shut off their headlamps. Shut off our headlamps. As soon as we shut off our headlamp, this thing, which is hovering above the tree line above us, hits us with a floodlight. And it's looking at us, we're looking at it, and we're all debating, what is it? And the first thing I tell Bill is, give me a time check. He's like, it's 9:15. Okay. So we're looking at it, and is it the plane? Is it a drone? Brian's like, it's literally a UFO because it's hovering right above us. It's not making any noise. And we're filming the whole thing live, streaming it live, and we're just mind-boggled because this thing is right above us, just above the trees, and it's not making a sound. Not a sound. And this is where we sent this video to Erica because she's the orange orb expert of
Right.
MUFON. So we sent it to her for her analysis because we ran it through our software, and we couldn't find anything behind the light. You know what I mean? There was nothing there. So we're looking at this light. It's looking at us. And then it just goes on its merry way. And we move to our second location. We get to our second location. We call our psychic again. And she says, okay, this location is totally different than the last one. This one you're going to see like woodland creatures, like fairies and elves and gnomes and all of this crazy stuff. You're going to see light anomalies deep in the woods. You're going to see tall shadow figures. You're going to see small shadow figures. And we're like, okay, whatever. We'll see what happens. And we're sitting there, and we're in a circle. The Appalachian Trail is just to our right. And if you come down, you go south on the Appalachian Trail, you come right into our campsite. And we're sitting there, and I'm seeing these 12-foot shadow figures jump from tree to tree. And I'm saying, you guys see this? And they're like, no, but Brian's seeing these little white shadow creatures running from tree to tree. Bill is filming the meteor shower. Brian says, Bill, aim the camera at the trees. Bill, tell the story.
Yeah, so he's got a monitor connected. Al's sitting in a chair. I'm standing over his shoulder, looking down at the monitor that he's holding in his hand while I'm pointing the night vision camera that I have at the trees. All of a sudden, going from right to left in the trees to, and this is the only way I could describe it, two misty, whitish, shadowy things, two of them going from right to left, like jumping from a tree limb to another tree limb. And then at another point, and I said to Al, Al, please tell me you just seen that. He said, Bill, I'm watching it right here. I've seen it. At the same time, Brian is taking photos with his camera, and he's going to talk about that after I'm done with what he captured. Incredible stuff. But then also, Pat, there were these they look like little orbs, like I could say dozens, and I don't want to exaggerate by saying hundreds, but let's say dozens of these little orb lights in the trees, on the branches. And now this is the night vision equipment, and there's no leaves in the trees. The trees. This is October, Halloween. They're all down already in upstate New York. So I'm seeing these little shiny little balls in the tree, like dancing around. I'm like, oh, what is? I can't. And I've used my night vision camera many times, and I've never seen anything like this captured on my night vision camera. So that was another strange anomaly. And Al and Brian, you guys pick up because first of what the person was telling us on the phone, and also Brian, what you and Al were capturing on your cameras.
Well, when we were sitting there, I'm facing Al and into the woods over his shoulder, and Al's facing behind me into the lake area. Bill's to my left near the trail, and I decided when our psychic said they're watching you now, and she's talking about these guardians, these woodland creatures, this Bigfoot. She said that she felt that we may actually get a real contact situation there where they're going to come forward. So I decided to use my camera. It happens to be very good at night, very low light, and no need for flash. And I start taking 360 photos around. And in the 360 photos, I start capturing, which I just posted up there, this bluish fog that comes out of nowhere. I mean, I don't see it physically with my eyes. It's not surrounding us. It's not coming off the lake like mist. Right. And it's bluish. And in one, and in a couple of them, I'm going to post a couple more. You start seeing in the background behind the bluish fog some of these little white lights, and you see a big orb. I'm skeptical of orbs in general because there's dust anomalies and what have you, but these things are so high up in the trees, and they're everywhere, and they're dancing around, and they're different shapes and sizes, that when she starts telling us that we're going to see these things, I'm seeing them, and I'm seeing also into the darkness behind Hal, I'm seeing what looks like, I guess, something darker than the actual darkness of the woods, and it's tall, and it's large, and it's moving. It's not a play on my eye. It's not shadow play. It feels as if we're being watched, and we are literally like surrounded at that point. So I'll keep posting some of them up there, and I'll keep going because we're almost finished with it. We're talking to the psychic at this point, and then we start hearing people.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. So just to reiterate what Brian said, Brian's getting this blue mist and a red fog, okay, in his camera. I'm taking photographs. Well, I have a totally different camera than Brian, and I'm getting these blue mist in it as well. And we're just checking out all these light anomalies, and we're hanging out, and we're trying to make sense of everything. When we hear Pat and God sounds like a family coming down the Appalachian Trail, okay? A mother, a father, and two little kids laughing and giggling and talking and joking. And we're all sitting there like, who the hell is walking down the Appalachian Trail at this time at night on Halloween with their family?
With their family.
So, and we're sitting in the dark, three grown men, fully armed. So I say, guys, put your headlamps on because we don't want to scare this family if they come out into the open and we're standing there. So we got machetes and survival knives, you know? So everybody puts their headlamps on. And when you can hear these people coming and laughing and joking, and then all of a sudden, no one ever comes out. No one comes out off the Appalachian Trail. So I said, Phil, let's take a look. We got this huge flashlight. We walk up the Appalachian Trail, maybe 25 feet or so, and we're shining this huge flashlight that lights up the whole woods, and there's nobody there. Nobody there.
Wow.
So I say to Bill, I said, Bill, give me a time check. And Bill says, it's 11:30. And I say, no way. We just spoke to the psychic at 9:30, and it's maybe been a half hour. That felt like a half hour had gone by. And Bill says, Al, I'm not lying to you. It's 11:30. Where the hell did those 2 hours go?
All right, everybody, welcome back to Fringe Radio. Al, I'm going to let you go ahead and pick back up and finish. This is what time of the morning is this?
Well, it's 11:30 at night now. Like I said, we had just finished speaking to the psychic at 9:30, and it only felt like a half hour had gone by.
Yeah.
So now we're all debating. We're all sitting there and we're debating. How could it be 11:30? How could we have lost 2 hours? Now we're starting to think about that UFO, that orange orb thing that we've seen. You know, did something happen from the moment we seen that to the moment we got here, and where did 2 hours go? It didn't seem like we were sitting there for 2 hours doing our investigation, because we did EVP. Brian did an EVP. Brian, tell about your EVP you did. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I started doing an EVP, and because I thought it was a good time to do it, and I actually have some of it here. And I didn't listen to it until the next day, a couple days later. I'm going and reviewing the evidence, and I start listening, and the first thing I get is what sounds very much like a binary code. I'm playing it right now, if you can hear it. And I'll put a direct link up on the site, and then it goes into my EVP session, and I've heard these codes before. You're talking about ham radio earlier before. It's something very ham radio-ish. You hear them. Actually, they use a lot of that type of coding, ham code, in Star Wars, in some of the communications when they're trying to contact planets or whatever. So it's I'm thinking, what's the possibility that there's actually the code that's in there, binary, can be pulled out, and maybe it spells words or it's a message. And I'm talking to my uncle who worked for the U.S. military for many years he's a physicist, I believe, or was, and in science. And can you pull a code out? If I give you an audio file, well, it's racking his brain. I finally found something that will take the code, and I use the audio from the code, and I ran it through this program, and it gives me a stereoscopic type of view of what the code looks like. And when you look at the code, and I'm going to post it up there, it definitely looks like there is a figure in the code, and I definitely found some kind of, looks like an alien head. I'll post the pictures up there for everybody to take a quick look at, but it looks like pretty much the creature from, if you ever remember Star Trek, the original series, the alien that was in there that typically looks like the Gray. And it blew my mind. And when I showed it to Al and Bill, I think they were just speechless at this point. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't just digging for something and saying, oh, I'm going to find something. I was just like, let's see if there is something there. And it's clearly, you can see it. I'm going to put 3 photos up. Each one is a regression of where the original picture. Then you'll see me trying to outline a little bit, and then I overlaid what the Star Trek creature was. It blew my mind to see this.
Also, Pat,
incredible.
About 2 years ago, something happened in my house. I took a photo of something in the mirror, and it was an. I'll make it quick because I know we're a little bit getting short on time. But I was in a chat room in Inception Radio Network, and I was with a couple of friends there. and I took a picture. They asked me to take a picture of my room, and I took this picture, and there was a man in my mirror. So I recently sent the picture to Brian to have it analyzed, and he's really great. He's got the software. In that picture, he came back, and Al's seen it. He came back, and we see all these kind of other manifestations, like what looks like a reptilian, big-eyed, insectoid alien, and these other figures. So you'd be amazed what you see in a photo and what he can do and bring out. I mean, again, it's you see it, you got to look it for your own, reach your own conclusion. But the consensus between the three of us is there's something else in that image as well. So it was really odd.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I'm looking at the. I see you superimposed the one picture, but the other picture you can see where you did the tracing of it. That's interesting.
It kind of like I wasn't really expecting it. I was, it's a theory, whatever, and I was blown away. I'm like, okay, there's a figure there. There's a figure. I'm asking other people. I'm asking, people that I know that that near my computer. I'm like, I even asked my daughter. I'm like, what do you see? Oh, there's a guy there. There's a man there, or something like that. I'm like, okay, so I'm not just making this up, and this is literally the audio stream that I recorded on my EVP, the beginning portions of the audio stream. So I just was blown away at this point. I mean, like on top of possibly, where the time difference when Al was mentioning to you, we just talked to the psychics 9:30. The next thing you know, it's 11:30. We contacted her again, and she said, you're going to experience maybe a rip in space. Al, I believe, what was it exactly? She said, be careful of some of the guys may feel, different or a little bit odd because of you traveling through almost like a tear. And
she said that we were in a space-time continuum when we were at that location, and that's why we got the photographs of the red mist and the blue fog and all this other crazy stuff that was happening.
And hearing those voices of the family.
She also said that family was going to be there the following day, hiking through the woods. And so at this point, we're sitting there, and we're just trying to figure out where the hell the 2 hours went to, when I see these two light anomalies shine light up on the other side of the lake. So I told Brian to bring his laser pointer. He had the green one. I had a red one. I said, if we see these light anomalies, we're not going to chase them through the woods trying to catch them. We're just going to hit them with the laser points, see what happens. So eventually, these two light anomalies are shining maybe half a mile away on the other side of the lake. So I say, Brian, you get the one on the right, I'll get the one on the left. And at the same time, I said, Bill, you hit the area with your giant flashlight. Let's see if we see anything there. So on 3, we all hit it. And when our laser pointers, our laser beams hit those lights, those things clipped off like somebody shut the light. Bill hit the area with his giant flashlight, and there's nothing there. And it's not like you can hide behind the bushes because there's no leaves on anything. And all the leaves are down on the ground. There's nothing there. And there's just nothing there. But there was just two solid white baseball-looking orbs, thick. You couldn't even see through them. And all of a sudden, they just blinked off. So at this point, we're headed towards our third location. It's where everybody sees Bigfoot's at. And we're getting there, and we're pretty wiped out from the energy in the woods that night. We were pretty drained. And it's 11:45, and I wanted to be there for 12 o'clock. And then I realized, oh, man, this is the night where you got to turn the clocks back an hour. So now at 12 o'clock, we got to turn them back to 11, and we're going to have to sit here for another hour. And we were all burned, Pat. We were burned out. And not realizing that it was at 2 o'clock in the morning, you had to change it back at around 12, we decided to call it a night. We start walking out. Now, the game plan was we're going in. After the whole investigation is over, head back to the diner, grab a bite, eat a cup of coffee, and discuss the evening. As we're walking out, we're talking amongst ourselves, and I'm saying, man, what a crappy night. We've been here for 8 hours, and nothing happened. Man, I'm so disappointed, And I said, Halloween, full moon, meteor shower, and we're just going on and on and on. And again, the woods are void of life. There's nothing there. We get about a half a mile away from the lake. Bill, pick it up.
Yeah, it's interesting because as we're leaving the vicinity of the lake, Pat, we can see that there's, again, the void of life behind us. As soon as we get to the trail, the old road that goes back to the main road,
right,
we see such an abundance of deer and other animal life. It's incredible that they all seem to be in that area and avoiding the area that we just left. Now, we're there all night. We're there hours, 8, 9 hours there. And other than the things we heard rushing us, and it was nothing, dead. But then we're leaving, and we see all the animals. They're everywhere. They're crossing in front of us, deer. I mean, we actually had to take our time leaving. There was so much animal life just getting out of there. It was just so odd. And then what happened, because I know we're getting short on time, but the next day, we all suffered from physical ailments. We had issues going on, things that we're saying, okay, now, what the heck are these symptoms from? Is it because of what maybe residue of radiation at the lake or something else? So these guys, personally, I had a lump on my back, and I had nausea, and I just had a bad headache, and you guys can tell me what you guys suffered as the next day.
I woke up in the morning and I had this like metallic-y taste in my mouth, and I had extra phlegm, and I actually spit it up, and it was blue. I wasn't eating anything blue at the time, so I'm like, okay, what's this? And I had like a little, it seemed like a bump on my head. I called Al and I talked to him about it, and Al had this thing. Al, if you don't mind, he had like a hardness in his lip. He felt like he had something in his lower lip, lodged in his lip, like there was an object there. On top of that, for me, I was getting ready to go out with the family and changing my shirt, and my wife's like, what happened? Would you hit yourself? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And down on my stomach area, there were 2 bruises on my body that I never even noticed. Didn't have them before I went into the nuclear lake. But when I came back out, I had them the next day on that, that Monday or whatever, the Sunday. So, and our psychic, she experienced scratches and disfigurement a little bit at that point. So it for days afterwards, we were all a bit just out of it. We just weren't ourselves, not crazy or anything. It just like foggy. It was a very interesting feeling. But I guess Al, you can kind of pick it up at this point.
Yeah, Pat, we were actually the psychic who comes back. Our psychic is located in Arkansas. She said she woke up with a rash on her arms. She wasn't even there.
Wow.
And like I said, I felt like I had something implanted in my bottom lip. I had a fat lip. But as far as being loopy, I swear to God, I was definitely loopy for 3 days afterwards, and maybe even a full week, because the energy in that place was just insane. And then after it was bad going in, but after I did the Tibetan singing bowl, it just changed. It went off the charts. And you know what? We're still trying to figure out where those 3 hours went. We have
we're going back
here.
What? Yeah,
we're going back.
When are you guys going back? When's the next trip back?
Well, right now right now we're getting ready to do a presentation at the Pine Bush UFO Fair in New York. We got invited to come up there and do a Pine Bush. For people who don't know it, it's like the capital of the East Coast as far as UFO sightings.
Uh-huh.
And we got invited to go up there and do a 2-hour presentation day of the fair, and then afterwards the team is actually going to take anybody who wants to come with us to a haunted location in the town, old Victorian mansion, and we're going to do a night investigation. I think Brian is actually going to try to stream it live too.
Yeah, we're gonna get it up there on probably using Periscope, and we'll be live. It'll be off our website or off our Twitter feed as well. So keep a lookout, guys.
Yeah, what are you? Yeah, I'll tell you, if it would be cool if you can get any sort of internet connectivity and you decide to go out there on a Saturday night. Boy, I'd love to get you guys streaming live right here into the studio.
Yeah, that's going to be the May 21st too.
Yeah,
We
May
could definitely
21st,
do that for you.
Saturday night. It's a Saturday night.
Yep.
We're definitely going to do it.
And also,
So, tell
Eric,
what-
I just
tell
want
what
to
you
just
got
throw this in
planned.
quickly. Eric Hartwig, my good friend in Boston, Massachusetts, who's also a MUFON field investigator now, he and I are going to be doing a live Skywatch there. We're going to bring all our equipment. We're bringing TV sets, and we're going to have a crowd gathered in these fields that have been allocated by the town officials for us to be there. We're going to do a live Skywatch with TV monitors and everything else, and that's going to be recorded. So these guys will be doing their investigation. We're going to be doing our Skywatch. So it's going to be a ton of fun in Pine Bush.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time, and then we're going to go investigate Bill's house when we get finished.
Yeah.
Well,
and by the
we'll
way,
get ahead.
there was 2 boxes that fell in my room when we were a few minutes ago. I was like, it was behind the bar. 2 boxes just fell out of nowhere, but that's a whole different story for another day.
Wow. It sounds like a very interesting, a very, very interesting place for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Pat, to say the least, Bill has never done a paranormal investigation until he came out with me the first time, and then when we went out the second time, he was hooked. He was hooked after that second night. Believe me, he is so amped up. I mean, unbelievable.
So you're going to do it's May 20.
We experienced everything in one night we possibly experienced, I think.
So it's going to be Saturday, May 21st is the next time you're going out?
We're going, yeah. That's when we're going to do the Pine Bush UFO Fair. The town has scheduled on the calendar that we're going to start our night investigation at the Haunted Mansion at 9:30 Eastern.
So
Standard
we
Time.
can hook up with you if you want and get you the feed and
Oh, yeah, I'd love to.
do both feeds just in case,
No, I'd love
It's good
to.
to have eyes elsewhere.
Yeah, that would that would be great. I get a feed from there and talk some of the locals here into getting down to Skinwalker Ranch on the same night and merge them all together.
Wow. That would be awesome.
I'd like to get a chance to get out
That
there.
would be great.
Well, guys, the time went way too quick. I
Way
didn't
too
say a
quick.
lot. I just wanted you to talk because that's what this is all about, is to get your stories out. But let's all stay in touch and let's maybe see if we can make something work for the 21st. It would be an honor to have you interconnected. And again, this sounds like an amazing place that a lot of people don't know about.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely going to stay in touch, Pat. We'll definitely contact you May 21st at some point during the day. Try to get that connection.
All right, that sounds good. Well, hey, everybody, get some sleep. I know it's late on the East Coast, but again, thank you for all, thank you for giving up your Saturday night and being here. It was an honor to have you on as always, and let's stay in touch and let's make something work for the 21st.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Thank you
I'm
for
to be
having
on,
us.
Pat.
Okay, my friends,
Thank
have
you.
a good night. Be blessed. God bless, and talk to you soon.
Good night,
Bye.
Pat.
Take care.
Good
Bye-bye.
night, everybody.
Good night.